Salute, Nick Streets. We're buzzing. Welcome in to the post-game live as the New York Knicks pick up their 5th straight win. Now move 7-3 on the season. And we've got lots to talk about, lots to break down in this one as the New York Knicks for 3 consecutive games put up 130 points, putting up 133 tonight, and the offense is absolutely humming right now as Jalen Brunson put up 10 dimes and the threes continue to fall. We've got lots to talk about. Shout out to everyone in the building. Mike Brown's got the offense firing, and we're going to give out the game ball. We're going to give out the grades and shout you guys out as the New York Knicks handle their business wire to wire. The Memphis Grizzlies, right, made a late run, but it was not enough to get the victory, right, as the New York Knicks now 5 in a row, undefeated at home on the season. The Detroit Pistons, right, talking confidently, talking some smack, and we're going to get through that tonight, and I look ahead to the back-to-back, second of a back-to-back tomorrow against Orlando, which I think will really test the New York Knicks. Welcome in Johnny Chiba, Al Tango, Shea Signature, salute all the Knicks diehards coming through the building. I've been missing in action for a couple of games, but appreciate y'all holding me down. I've been transferring my virtual studio over to a brand new software, so we are good to go, but we might have a couple of technical difficulties if that arises, but we'll continue the stream tonight and shout you guys out. Yuri says, just got to stay healthy. Shout out to everyone. A healthy Knicks team is super important. And that's a great place to start because the New York Knicks sat Mitchell Robinson. It's been talked about. Obviously, the plan early in the season was to make sure that Mitch was healthy. I think for the big games and tomorrow against Orlando, I think is going to be another big game. Tonight, the Memphis Grizzlies, they've been struggling. And so I like the plan of attack with that. And Landry Shamet got the start, guys. And yeah, he was really impactful, hitting big-time shots. Jordan Clarkson continues, right? Has not had a bad game since he woke up 3 games back. Josh Hart as well, right? So everyone's really starting to move and groove. And we have a new poll in tonight's chat, right? And yeah, we are going to set up. We're going to set up a lot of things coming up, Yuri. So stay tuned. But unfortunately, we won't have a call in for tonight. But like I said, things are in the works, and really looking forward to getting some interactivity happening. More interactivity. David M. Salute Simon. Yeah, been missing in action for a couple of games, but like I said, I've just been basically trying to transfer all of my setup to a brand new software. So, and there's going to be a lot more things happening. We're going to look at some highlights from Diawara and Pacome Dardier as well, as they balled out in the G League the other game. But first and foremost, right, tonight's effort. The Knicks came out of the gates really hot, and the Memphis Grizzlies did not. And basically, it was a wire-to-wire beatdown outside of a tricky, I'll say, situation late in the fourth quarter, where the Grizzlies made a couple of runs. One of them was an 8-0 run. Another one was a 2-11 run. But I wasn't really sweating because I felt like the Knicks obviously felt they had this one wrapped up. It was relatively comfortable. It did get a little bit tricky, like I said, but 133 points, guys. I mean, how are you feeling right now? So the poll in tonight's chat is 7-3, 5 in a row. How are you feeling? Option number 1 is Knicks are on track for the number 1 seed. Second option is not getting carried away yet. Not jumping out the window just yet. The third option is we're ahead of schedule, in my opinion. So maybe some people thought we were going to start okay, we're going to start well, but maybe you're starting to feel like we're ahead of schedule as well at 7-3. Bear in mind a brand new coach, new players, new system as well. I mean, 7-3 is a solid to great start, I think, given the circumstances, right? And the fourth, last but not least option is we just got to stay healthy, right? It don't really matter right now in terms of the best is yet to come. And so maybe you just got to stay healthy. And that is the fourth option. Yuri certainly feels that way. Jose G, my guy, salute. Giants, Yankees. Prezi, the boss. Great to see you. And everyone else coming through the building tonight, have your say and vote in tonight's poll, right? And also, if you enjoy the stream, please hit that like button. Helps the stream out, and it definitely keeps the streets buzzing. As Prezi the boss says, the internet streets are buzzing. All the streets are buzzing right now. So we're obviously going to give out the game ball and the grades. You guys give it out with me, but who was your standouts from today? I really felt like the 9-man rotation has been the catalyst, ladies and gentlemen, to help things really start to click. Obviously, the starters have been absolutely superb. And Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Karl Anthony Towns, and Brunson, and Mitchell Robinson the other night look amazing. But tonight, interesting, you substitute Mitch out, you bring in Landry Shamet, and it's like, okay, how's it going to look? And Memphis went with the double bigs. They had Jaren Jackson, they had Jock Landale, who's more of a bench player, but they've got no Zach Edey at the moment. And so the New York Knicks, with Landry Shamet in the lineup, man, they didn't miss a beat. And Landry hit some big shots early, and I really like that, what we're getting from Landry Shamet, right? As the New York Knicks unveiled their City Edition court, man, it looks fire. And and obviously the unis as well. I mean, what a throwback. We're going to talk about that tonight, right? But let's hit on a super chat from Yuri Ark, my guy in the building. Salute to Yuri. Says, the way I view it is this. Knicks played a full 3/4 of ball, let the fourth quarter get too relaxed, but got to play 48 minutes until the end. With that, great point, Yuri. Appreciate the contributions as always. But yeah, you're on point because better opponents are going to get back into these ball games, and we're in new territory, Yuri and guys in the building, ladies and gentlemen. We are in situations where we're leading wire to wire, and you've got to keep the focus. You've got to keep that focus because the moment you let your guard down is when other guys are going to get back into the ball game. And that's, I think, one of the key, as I go back to before, I think the key to this run has been the 9-man rotation, right? Taking out Kolek. And obviously, when Mitch plays, Yarbel Sele hasn't been playing, right? Yeah, Shamet got the start, but Mitch was out tonight. Yarbel Sele was fantastic. Let us know your thoughts on Yarbel Sele's performance. I thought he was really good. And we're going to look at the box score as we continue to roll these highlights and shout you guys out. But yeah, with the way Yuri says it, we're learning still. We're disguising it very well, but we are still at a new territory, and we're figuring things out still on the fly. I mean, it is very much a free flowing offense, but we're making quicker decisions. The player movement off the ball is so much better than what it was last season. And obviously under the previous coach. The players are obviously a lot more engaged. You see the backdoor cuts, the bounce pass there from Hart to OG Anunoby, man. I feel like OG is really benefiting and thriving off this ball movement and the assists as well, as we knew he would, right? He was one of the guys from last season that needed a larger role and would benefit from the extra pace and ball movement. Deuce McBride's another guy. Also, Josh Hart, as I said, started slow. The finger and the back, was definitely hampering Jay Hart. But I feel like guys that we're starting to see these guys thrive under this offense more, especially the guys that love getting up and down too. As Johnny says, why did the Knicks falter in the fourth? Great question, Johnny. I felt like the shortened rotation, obviously the pace, it did allow Memphis to get loose and get some open looks, and their shots started to go down, Johnny Chiba. So that that's how I felt like Memphis got that little run late in the fourth quarter. Defensively, we're still not where we need to be in the long term. We've got some things we've got to tighten up. But I really felt like, yeah, Cat was, struggling a little bit defensively in that fourth quarter. Yabusele came in late in the fourth quarter as well. And Yabusele, as we know, ain't a defensive first guy. But today, his, screen setting, his offensive movement was really, blending into this offense really good. David Haas says next 2 games will show us who we are. David, great comment too. Yeah, tomorrow back to back, but last back to back we had was quite straightforward. I think tomorrow's back to back is definitely really gonna test us, as you say. Prezi the boss says the game ball got to go to Kith for the City Edition jerseys. I like that. But obviously we're going to give the standout game ball and performance goes to me personally will go to Jalen Brunson, man. It was tough. I thought OG inefficient from downtown as we're going to look at the numbers. Mikal Bridges, excellent game. I thought Cat was probably player of the first half. Hart finished the game really strong. Great contributions from Clarkson and Yabusele and Shamet, obviously. But when the Memphis Grizzlies pulled within 10, who was it that hit that big shot to get us back that separation? It was Jalen Brunson. And obviously the 10 dimes and the, the steals, the rebounding as well, was excellent from Jalen in this one. So I can't sing his praises enough because, there was a lot of doubt over how would Jalen Brunson adapt, guys, to this new system. Well, right now, he's letting everyone know that he is a baller, and it don't matter what system, really. Jalen Brunson's a high IQ baller, and he was always going to figure it out. But we saw big-time signs from last season that the three-point ball was more of a weapon that, not a lot of people talked about when it comes to Jalen Brunson. They talk about the drives, they talk about, the footwork, they talk about the fadeaway, the mid-range, and all of that. But I felt like last season, the three-point ball was super key, to unlocking Jalen Brunson's game. And, as we see this amazing steal, right, as Karl Anthony Towns left Jock Landale in his wake, right, in that one. That was filthy, that drive. So we're going to look at that one as well. But as we take a look at these numbers now, let us know who you want to give the game ball out to, or whether or not you agree with myself. As we continue to shout you guys out, Dink Pate Hive, Johnny Chiba. Really looking forward to seeing Dink Pate continue to ball out in the G League with Westchester as well. Great passing, dimes galore. This is not the Tibbs team, says Johnny Chiba. Tendrell, says Jock Landale. Right, is such a fake-sounding strongman name. He's a good guy, Jock Landale. Obviously, he's from Australia, so I know Jock well, but he's a bench player at this stage, and he's filling in for Zach Edey. Benjamin B is not happy with the officiating. Right, we'll talk about that. We need to be fouling less. Discipline is key, definitely. OG Anunoby was a plus 24, team high, guys. So I mentioned offensively, he's really looking better under Mike Brown, but defensively, OG Anunoby is still one of our most important players. Finished with 16 points, 5 fouls, like Benjamin said, 3 steals, and 2 steals, 3 assists, 4 rebounds, right? I mentioned adjustment, guys. The biggest thing we've got to counteract is obviously the offense. 130, big shout out, 3 games in a row consecutively. That's a franchise record right now. So offensively, we're second in the league. We might be number 1 in the league, right? In the next minute. But defensively, we've definitely got to become more disciplined and learn to, be more, mindful of these ticky-tack fouls, playing good defense, but staying in front of your man, not bailing them out, not getting these blow-bys, going vertical. Speaking of Jock Landale, I thought he did well on a couple of possessions going vertical, and that's what we need to, continue to do. Mitchell Robinson is the expert at that, too. So OG was aggressive. There's no doubt Mike Brown wants this team to be more aggressive defensively, and it's working, to some extent. 12 steals tonight. 35 assists is absolutely big time. And obviously we're going to go through the grades and we'll go through each player's individual numbers, right? But yeah, we relive these highlights and the plays of the game. And here we go. Karl Anthony Towns blowing by Jock Landale in that one. So yeah, I like Cat's aggressiveness off the dribble. And this game, the last couple of games, he's been a lot more aggressive at the top of the key with the drive and not settling for those threes. And that's the biggest change I've seen in Cat's game over this 5-game winning streak, right? I thought he was settling for the three in those couple of losses early. When we did lose to the Chicago Bulls, we lost to the Milwaukee Bucks. Remember that big time deep three that Cat put up, I think against Milwaukee? He's corrected that. And we're starting to see Karl Anthony Towns really play bully ball, which is the kind of game that I wanted to see Cat focus more on, because it gets the other team in foul trouble and it also opens up the floor for everyone else, ladies and gentlemen, when Cat is aggressive like this. So yeah, a couple of guys missing out on some minutes. Carlos says, rather see Huck play over Yabu. I like the fact that Mike Brown's giving, certain guys different looks. Huck Porty seems to be out of favor for the moment. He did get, some extended garbage time in the other win against Brooklyn. Yeah, it does look like Yabusele is the guy that they're looking at early. He is the free agent signing, has the player option for next season. So we've got to wait to see, I guess how it plays out. I would love to see Huck Porty play in the G League if he's not playing minutes with the big club. But it does obviously factor in that, the rotation has shrunk a little bit. And I think guys are just going to have to stay ready and they're going to have to stay patient. But yeah, I do think Huck Porty has a bright future. He's still learning in this league. It's only his second season. And I do think he's got to, he's one of those guys that's really got to cut out the fouling, fam, like you guys are talking about. Like always on point. Jose G says CT JB 3 ball is an addition to his bag. And also Jose follows up with the super chat. Bless up to Jose G Insight. Appreciate you for the contribution. Says CT, we know when playoffs come, the defense will lock up. We know when the playoffs come, the defense will lock up and turn up. My guy Jose, yeah, I think defensively, playoff defense goes up naturally, but I agree with you. I think our defense with Mitchell Robinson and how he performed against, specifically against Boston, is the blueprint, and I do think we're going to be better than that. I do think Diawara is a guy that I'm really looking forward to seeing get more minutes this season. I think Mikal Bridges looks like a completely different player. Under this new coach on offense and defense. OG Anunoby, I mean, he's playing for keeps. OG Anunoby wants that defensive player award. He wants offensive accolades. And whilst inefficient tonight, this team is just playing great team ball. And I think it's Jalen Brunson that is making a lot of sacrifices, but his scoring is still there. And that just speaks to last season, how much meat there was left on the bone, guys. Because remember we talked about last season, like, yeah, we're an okay team, we grind you down, we play the Tibbs ball, and we get the dub. But there was just so much left there offensively with this team, with the ball movement. And what a high IQ play from Landry Shamet in this one. Love to see Landry get his opportunities. I mean, kind of surprised that they still do favor Landry Shamet that highly. Solid player, but he does, go up and down, has his inconsistencies, but he performed well tonight and took the chance when he got the start. And I love this little fake step back 3-point ball as the New York Knicks were just raining threes, right? 22 of 55, 40% from downtown, right? Has definitely got the streets buzzing. As the Knicks win fast break points tonight, we murdered them in the second chance points as well, right? You mentioned, Steve Novak, discount double check. Shout out to Steve on the call with MSG. Talked about, points off of turnovers, turning our defense into offense and just being more aggressive that way. And obviously the possessions are up. But the New York Knicks are still 26th in pace. So it does feel like we're playing a lot faster, but the rankings don't really suggest that. I think we're a couple of spots up from last season. All right, as you guys see the wire to wire, we absolutely dominated the Grizz from start to finish. Despite a late run from the Grizzlies, it didn't really get below 10. Right, might have got to 8, but I think maybe it was 10. And yeah, Mike Brown on the mic. Shout out to Johnny Chiba. Says, CT, how great was it hearing Mike Brown talk up his players, especially OG? He's definitely more of a players coach. Tibbs is more of that, older school. It's been said to death before about, he's very regimented, expects the players to know what is expected of them. But I think Mike Brown, first year, he's really putting in more of that effort to, meet the players halfway. I think that's the best way to say it. Tibbs more of like, okay, you got to conform to the way I want to do things. Mike Brown's a bit more of like, hey, I'm going to meet you halfway. Okay, how can I get the best out of you? But also, how can you understand what I need from you? And I think offensively, they're really starting to get it. Tendrell, I like that. It says Landry, Harden, step back, Shamit. Turnovers, force 22. I mean, the Memphis Grizzlies are really struggling right now. So that's another reason why tomorrow is going to be a bigger test. But obviously, when we get back on the road, as we're going to talk about later tonight, guys, as I pull up the schedule, things are going to get a lot tougher. We said we've got to capitalize on this homestand, and the Knicks are doing exactly that, which is pleasing. But Orlando tomorrow, going to be a tougher game. Miami, we need some get back. And I think we're going to be really locked in for that second game of the NBA Cup on Prime on Friday night. Knicks coming up this week. Orlando, I want to win tomorrow. Don't get me wrong, man. I want to get this streak going past 6, currently at 5. But tomorrow, I'm not going to be mad if we lose. I expect us to win. But that Miami game is the one I'm really looking at, fam. That's the one I'm really looking at, right? I also, as the Knicks, tonight, they gave a really touching tribute. So I just wanted to pay my respects here for us to a couple of legends. Not only New York Knicks legends, but legends of the game, legends of our sport. And that is obviously now prayers, condolences to Michael Ray Richardson, his family, loved ones, friends, and fans alike, and obviously Lenny Wilkins as well. So prayers and condolences up to the families of two legends of the sport, ladies and gentlemen. And then the New York Knicks and the Garden faithful gave them a touching moment of silence and tribute before tonight's ball game, right? In which we unveiled the City Edition court and obviously the new unis. How did you guys like them? Right, 9.5, 10 out of 10 for me. The old school logo, as we see Brunson warm up before tonight's ball game, you see the logo right there, and I pull up the still. 10 out of 10 for me, man. It's absolutely beautiful to see, man. Now, The checkers are below the 3-point line. That is something that's different. Not to say that I dislike it, but I think it's different. Would have liked to maybe see the court without the checkers, but all in all, I think it's basically a beautiful looking court, man. And the Knicks honoured those unis to perfection tonight, man. As the three balls were raining, and we continue to break this one down, right? So let's give out the first grade, right? Obviously, Brunson, the game ball tonight, and we're going to give out his grade first and foremost. The shot chart tonight, you see a steady diet of getting to the rack, but also stretching the floor out. So that's what you want to see from Jalen Brunson, right? Not settling for those threes, but also driving and getting good looks at the rack. And getting to the foul line is super key in this offense too. I think the Knicks could have done a lot better last season getting to the foul line, especially a guy like a Mikal Bridges, right? And Mikal Bridges was 3 or 4 from the free throw. Last season, it was like, I think 10 games into the season before he even got to the free throw line. So as a team, Brunson was 100% from the free throw, 4 of 4, 6 of 9 from downtown, as we mentioned, the three ball, plus 22, 32 points, had 6 turnovers, but had 10 assists and 5 rebounds, right, with the plus 22, right? So Jalen Brunson, man, he's been on a roll, and with that said, I guess the ball is in his hands less. There's less of a burden to set guys up, and in the offense, because Deuce McBride, Mikal Bridges is handling the ball more. Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, too. So let's pull up the grade for Jalen Brunson. Now I'm going to pull up. He's going to get, for me, the standout, the Schlick performance. I'm gonna fall short of the Savage, the special Savage, because of the nature of the game. It was a blowout. Also, it was 6 turnovers, but nonetheless, man, it was a standout performance from the captain in this one. Let us know if you think there's some things that JB could do better. Michael Drake, shout out, says Clarkson was ballin'. We're gonna get to Clarkson. I like what I see from Clarkson. And yeah, Michael already ordered the 1999 jersey at Throwback. You know what it is. Shout out. Glenn Jones, shout out, says, CT, brother, I'm just happy we are winning these games. We have to stack wins. Hopefully it continues. Yeah, it's good that we also have that motivation, because we're not number one right now. And we're going to talk about who is number one, because they are running their mouth. The Detroit Pistons and their fans, man, are absolutely running their mouth. But, we're going to meet them sooner rather than later. But, I'm happy for them in a way, because, right, someone's got to be good this season, right? We know the Celtics are struggling. We know, I thought Atlanta or Orlando were going to be good. They're, okay. They're struggling a little bit. And so it's the Milwaukee Bucks, it's the Chicago Bulls early who are starting to slide, and now it's the Detroit Pistons who are on fire right now. But the New York Knicks will be, really looking forward to that matchup, a replay of last season. And Cade's looking really good, but that's going to be a really good test for where we're at with the physicality when that game comes up. But as I said before, the Miami game is the one I'm really, really, really looking forward to next up. Fam, Carlos here really loves that logo. It is, man. It's beautiful, man. It's a throwback. It's sentimental for many of us. Knicks fans that go way back, but even newer Knicks fans. It's part of our history and a part of our tradition as well. So you love to see that. So yeah, Brunson gets the standout grade. Now let's turn over to the next guy, right? Let's just go from top to bottom. So OG Anunoby up next. Fam, 7 of 17, 1 of 10 from downtown, man. That is, that's terrible from downtown. But 7 of 17, not as bad. But OG Anunoby got the 2 steals, the 3 assists, 4 rebounds, was a plus 24, team high, right? So that salvages the poor shooting, in my opinion, being a plus 24, because we know OG Anunoby is going to sacrifice on the defensive side. And he was a good defender tonight with the 2 steals and the 16 points. But the 5 fouls, he's got to clean that up. Obviously, he was very aggressive, but the 4 turnovers too. I mentioned, having the ball in his hands a lot more. 35 minutes tonight. Obviously, we weren't able to rest some of these guys because we weren't able to keep that margin at 25 plus. So we are going to see how we pull up, tomorrow against the Magic. But as you see, OG Anunoby there made a great read, a drive and read to Mikal Bridges for the splash. So let's pull up OG's grade. Right, let us know how you feel about OG Anunoby's performance in this one. Yeah, Cade took that 45 field goals yesterday, man. That was crazy. That was absolutely crazy. OG Anunoby, despite shooting inefficient, man, his other stat line and production, right? I gotta, honor that and give also. Actually, no, I won't go that high because the captain obviously gets the standout grade for that one, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give OG Anunoby, I'm going to give him slightly less, but nevertheless a solid performance from OG Anunoby. He'll get the solid grade tonight for a lot of his selfless acts. So OG Anunoby's been a major part of our offense. The thing I like about his season thus far is his aggression, also taking it to the rack. 10 threes tonight, a lot of those are amazing looks. So that's why I'm not even fussed. Sometimes they're going to go down. Other nights they won't go down, but he keeps the ball moving. He gets great looks. A lot of those looks were from the corner, and OG's been shooting well this season, right? But tonight he didn't shoot the rock great from downtown, but it'll come. Deuce McBride, yep. Michael looks great. Clarkson is money. Johnny Chiba says A- for OG. OG is Superman, plus 24 is all that matters. Yeah, he's the quintessential great non-box score kind of player. He affects the game in so many ways, like Johnny Chiba said. I love the Superman comparison, man. He's built like Superman. But how filthy was that reverse dunk over Jock Landale? That was a great dunk. And like I said, it speaks to his aggression as well as Cat. I definitely feel like Mike Brown is asking these guys to be a lot more aggressive. As we see Karl Anthony Towns here, top of the key. Again, we run this highlight. Again, took Jock Landale to the rack. And the threats from all 5 guys out on the floor, that's how we're able to put up this 130. Teams don't really know who to focus and key in on defensively, right? When the ball's moving, we're so tough to stop. Now, I would have loved to see the Grizzlies tonight with Zach Edey and how we kind of navigate, a big rim protector that just kind of parks underneath the basket, but probably would have hit more threes, shot more threes. And look, Zach Edey's a guy that doesn't move his feet as well, so we could have got him in foul trouble too. Next up, we're going to talk about Mikal Bridges, 8 of 17, 3 of 9 from downtown. So he was slightly better than OG. Got to the line 4 times. But the 7 rebounds, the 5 assists, the 4 steals, and the 22 points plus 1. As Mikal Bridges played, I think, a team high 38 minutes tonight. how did y'all see Macau's performance, especially recently? I think he's a guy that's definitely helping out Brunson with the ball handling duties, with, as a guy who is able to, create a shot, get to his shot, get to his spot, and pull up. But you love the unselfishness, the way that he can move the ball and get up those assists as well, right? 5 assists, 7 rebounds, 4 steals. That's stuffing the stat sheet from Mikal Bridges. So I love to see that, and I think he's really becoming, a true two-way player, in this offense. Is Mikal Bridges. Last year he was limited offensively. We've been talking about that for quite a lot under Tom Thibodeau, because Brunson was dominating the ball for the most part. The Brooklyn Nets version and the Phoenix Suns version of Mikal Bridges, I think, is the kind of guy that we're getting, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to pull up his grade, and we're going to talk about the next guy, but we're going to ring it up for Mikal Bridges, who's going to get also a standout, slick performance, man. The 5 assists, 7 rebounds, and the 4 steals was absolutely slick out there. And he looks comfortable. And as you guys say, that's the most important thing. Is these guys are so talented and so skillful. If they feel comfortable, our play is just going to get better and better, right, under this system right now. So shout out to Mike Brown, who we are going to talk about, right, in the coaches talk segment tonight. We've got the coaches chat, sponsored by you guys, the chat, and let us know your thoughts on Mike Brown, right? Because 3 games in a row, 130 plus, right? We didn't see that last season. That's definitely evolution. That's growth. That's players and systems gelling right now. And that's why the front office made that coaching change, right? Still early, and we're still on our way to our destination, but so far so good, man. I'm enjoying the ride with this ball club and the new coach. Shez V's in the house. Great to see you, fam. Johnny Chiba says, CT, Bridges is the model student for Mike Brown's school of thought. Great. Well said, fam. The model student. You see him speaking up more, Johnny Chiba. You see him, hold his teammates accountable the other game, on certain possessions. So he's definitely strapped in, man. He's really locked in. Obviously, he was very vocal, and I think he was a major part of why, those exit interviews went the way that they went. I think it's fair to say Mikal Bridges was a guy, hoping for a change in the coaching ranks. And, so far the proof has been in the pudding, as they say, right? Now, next up, we're going to talk about Cat, right? Bodega Cat finished 7 of 17, 3 of 8 from downtown, 4 of 5 from the stripe, 9 defensive rebounds, 4 offensive, 13 total, and obviously finished with the 4 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, just 2 turnovers, 4 fouls, and finished 21 points on a neutral in the plus minus, right? So Karl Anthony Towns' performance, again, offensively, we're running the ball through him a lot more. He's making better decisions than the first couple of games with shot selection. And I like what I'm seeing, from Karl Anthony Towns, right? Was today like an eye-opening, eye-popping type performance? Or is it more we just come to expect this from a great, a dynamic and skilled offensive player, right? So I don't want to sound or feel like I'm taking Cat for granted. I'm not. But when I give him this grade, right, it was a really solid performance, right? Was it a particular standout? No, because I think this is Cat's level. This is his baseline now. This is his floor. And I think, he can, take it to new levels under this offense, right? But the three-point shooting has definitely gotten better as the season's going. But he ain't settling for those deep threes. He's attacking the basket and he's getting guys into foul trouble too. And I know Benjamin talked about this earlier with the officiating, but I have noticed that Cat is starting to get more of a whistle, right? He does need to cut back on the kind of the whining and, every time he misses or the refs miss a call, he just needs to, stay locked in and get back on defense. But I do think that Karl Anthony Towns is getting a slightly better whistle so far, and that's because of his aggression. That is really helping, right? Brunson, as we already know, got the standout and the game ball. So once again, I'm going to give our big shout out to the captain for this performance, leading the troops to victory for 5 straight. And let's see how we pull up on this second night of a back-to-back, right? Now's a perfect segue to check in on the chat and the poll, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't already done so, please hit that like button. Appreciate you supporting the channel and keeping the streets buzzing. Tonight's poll, 7-3, 5 in a row. How are you feeling? Top option is Knicks on track for the number 1 seed at 39%. Second option is not getting carried away just yet, 29%, close behind. Right. In third is just got to stay healthy at 20%. And last but not least, we're ahead of schedule, in my opinion, at 12%. Right. So, yeah, that's really interesting. I love the number 1 option right now. Knicks on track for that number 1 seed. That's the goal. I think that's a big statement. Detroit's number 1. We're coming for that top spot. We are a better team than the Detroit Pistons. 5 in a row now. And bring on some of these bigger challenges, ladies and gentlemen. Orlando, Miami, Florida calling our name. I just noticed that the Miami is a home and home as well. So the final homestand game is against the Heat for the NBA Cup before we head straight over to Florida to play Miami again on their home floor. So the season series might be already decided by that third game on Monday the 17th against the Heat, fam. I think the Heat are currently in, as I pull it up, the Heat are currently in third seed at 7-4. So, early surprise to the season. The Miami Heat started the season really well. So, looking forward to getting revenge, back on those guys. Now, last but not least, we're going to talk about the final starter tonight, Landry Shamet, 3 of 5, 2 of 4 from downtown. So, hunting his shot, hitting those threes early was key, I think, for Landry. And obviously, defensively, he plays solid defense, but tonight he was a -11, 10 points, 1 steal, 1 rebound. Right, and got to the line with 2 free throws, hit both of them too. So, once again, you'll have to see these guys get to the line and hit those easy buckets. Now, with Landry's performance, like as I said before, he got the start. I think he took his chance. He's there to knock down those threes, play decent defense. He's not going to continue to start when Mitch is healthy, but it seems to be that Mike Brown favors that 5-out look, which I really like. So when Mitch is out, we're going to go fast pace, we're going to go offense, and we're going to hit those threes as we got up 55 right tonight. So let's pull up Landry Shamet's grade for this one. Was he solid? Yeah, I think it was okay. It was kind of solid, but -10. I think he could be better defensively. But look, he played his role. So, right, it was a big time win. And I'm going to give Landry Shamet, right, his just grade right now. Let us know how you feel in the chat. Also with comment section replay squad, How are you doing? Great to have you with us as well. Let us know your thoughts. Yeah, I'll give Landry Sammet a solid grade because I think starting, isn't what he's used to. But 2 or 4 from downtown, definitely is part of our, record breaking offense we can talk about now, fam. It is record breaking, ladies and gentlemen. So welcome in to everyone coming through the building. Oliver says trade away Ja Morant off the Grizzlies. That's definitely a hot topic right now, Oliver, and I think Ja Morant tonight, like it didn't, chemistry wise, things just definitely look off with the Memphis Grizzlies, right? And Ja Morant. I think a change of scenery is definitely awaiting him, right? And they're probably going to have to break things or tear things down a little bit, to see, if they can, make some strides in the West, right? But it's going to take a while, right? Jaren Jackson's talented. If they can get a solid return for Ja Morant, I've heard a kind of Trae Young for Ja Morant trade. I've heard that floated around. I guess we're going to see as we look in the standings in a minute. We'll see how the ATL Hawks are doing. Johnny Chiba says, cat not whining will lead to winning. Yeah, nice rhyme and play on words with that one. Shamet step back 3 was a very smart move. Jose G says, I just want to see the Knicks get better with keeping the possession and not turning over the rock. Great point, as well. I think taking care of the ball was something that Tom Thibodeau, really preached, and, it irritated him, as it does all coaches, when you turn over that rock. I only got to think what Memphis coach is thinking, man. 22 turnovers, right? They are out of sync. But shout out to the New York Knicks, defense for making life difficult for them. Now, as we turn to our bench, ladies and gentlemen, that's been one of the biggest changes and catalysts since the 5-0 run, ladies and gentlemen. As I just take a quick drink and we'll get into the grade for Josh Hart. Right? Josh Hart, Jordan Clarkson, Miles McBride, tonight Yabusele, his best game as a Knick, I felt, in terms of production and box score. Shrinking that rotation down. Is Diawara unlucky? Is Huck Porty unlucky? Yes. Is Tyler Kolek unlucky? Absolutely. I think he looked okay. It just got to that point where we were losing a couple games, tighten that rotation up, and we're on a 5-game winning streak. So shout out to Coach Brown, I think, for making that adjustment, right? Just before we hit on Josh Hart, right? I do think you got to give a large amount of credit to the coach for making that tough decision, because, that loss to Milwaukee, loss to Miami, loss to Chicago, things were a bit antsy, and the fans were a bit, well, not just a bit, but yeah, some of the fans were very vocal and dissatisfied with how things were going. A simple tweak, Hart looks more like Hart. You got Clarkson looking just like Jordan Clarkson. The starters, have picked things up as well. So big shout out to the coach, Mike Brown. We're 7-3, right? We're not quite setting the world on fire just yet. Would love us to, continue this streak. Hopefully get to 10-3, and then that'll really, I think, set up our season. If we can get to 8-3, 9-3, 10-3, I do think that number 1 seed and 60 wins, 55-60, is obviously, I think, something we'll really start to talk about. I'm not quite there yet. Again, I just want to see us beat. We beat Minnesota. We beat up on Brooklyn. We beat up on the Grizzlies. Want to see us, handle our business against, some more tougher teams, right? So we look to Hart. Tonight he was a +6, 8 points. what stood out to me the most, the 8 assists, the 2 steals. 8 assists, 8 points, +6, 30 minutes. Kind of a classic Josh Hart game, fam. Kind of a classic Josh Hart game with the 8 assists, 8 points, right? Not going to set records alight. You'd love him to be a more efficient, but obviously he's going to have these nights. I think he's still dealing with, the hand injury, right? But hit all of his free throws, was aggressive. The 8 rebounds was solid, but the 2 steals, too, was really solid. So that basically explains the situation with Jay Hart. Looking a lot more like himself, but obviously because I think the minutes allocation is, also a major key in that factor. So I'm going to give Hart the solid grade tonight. Solid and selfless. You guys keep buzzing in the chat, right? We're going to talk about in the spotlight as well. After we've hit on the coaches talk too. In the spotlight, a new segment. Tonight I want to put in the spotlight is Mitchell Robinson because, for all positive reasons, it's good to be in the spotlight for positive reasons. Obviously, he's up for that extension. Started the season really well. Tomorrow, let's see. We sat him tonight. Tomorrow, second of a back-to-back. If this plan works out well and we blow out the Orlando Magic tomorrow, hopefully Mitch comes straight back into that starting lineup and can dominate against them. They do have a lot of size and a lot of length, with the Paolo Banchero situation. So we're talking about our bench now, ladies and gentlemen, after giving Josh Hart the solid grade. And Hart, 30 minutes tonight. Ideally, I see a lot of people pose the questions, should Hart play less than 25? The good thing is he's that guy that can play starters minutes, even if he doesn't start. If it's one of those games where Hart is rolling, as the New York Knicks, were rolling at halftime, and, as you see the big discrepancy, right? Up comfortable. OG Anunoby hitting one of his threes tonight. But, the bench, I think with the minutes down, I think that's really going to benefit the guys, come towards the end of the season, right? Remember last season we kind of got limped over the finish line a little bit with guys banged up, dealing with certain injuries. So far, I'm liking our minutes allocation. Now, tomorrow, I would expect Shamet to play more. He only played 20 tonight. Cat will play more than 31 tomorrow, I think. McHale and OG might stay the same. I do think Hart might see a reduction in minutes if Mitch plays. But for the most part, Brunson 36. If we kind of continue to blow them out, I think he would have got more of a rest. But we got the win. That was the most important thing. But ideally, we want to keep these minutes down. Michael Drake says Mike Brown versus Tibbs. It's like night versus day. That's Michael, man. Big time statement with that one. Johnny Chiba says Hart should play as long as he needs, as long as he's contributing. Yeah, it's good to say that as well, fam. See how the game is going. And there's certainly opponents that Hart thrives against, like the Heat. I think Boston, I think Detroit. I do think Josh Hart, is that guy that attacks Detroit on the glass and can really make them pay. There's certain opponents that Hart really gets out for, fam. And just certain games where he might need to have a seat with the 3-point shooting is something that we need to elevate. Now let's talk about Yabusele because, scoring-wise, he still hasn't really come to the party yet. But plus 13 with 6 gritty rebounds and assist as well. Today, I think screen setting was a highlight. Really getting guys freed up for these threes. And, the shot the negative is so far the Yabusele 3-point shot. It just doesn't look. It doesn't look like it's there. You know, the release is kind of high. They're not going down. So hopefully that's something that can correct as the season goes along, fam. But with, Yabusele, he's got to learn to contribute in other areas. Obviously shed some more pounds would be a great, a good start. And obviously the rebounding, the screen setting. And today I thought he played okay defense. He was able to stick in front of some guys, and he was able to recover. And that's all we want for 15 to 20 minutes, right? We are going to need more offensively out of him, right? So I'm not letting him off the hook when it comes to Yabusele, right? He was a big-time pickup. Hopefully we can get some more offense, right, out of Yabu. Now, look, for the most part, it was a silent type performance. So he'll get the white S for more of a silent type performance rather than sloppy. I don't think he was sloppy tonight, but more of the silent performance. But I think better than what we've seen, and hopefully he can, take that next step and start to really knock down some of those shots that we're going to need. Now, as I said before, when Mitch plays, Yabu ain't in the rotation, looks like. So is that a wake-up call from Yabusele? It should be. As we're going to talk about a guy who has woken up. Up next, Jordan Clarkson, ladies and gentlemen. What can I say about JC, man? Microwave in full effect. 13 points, +8, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 of 5 from downtown, 5 of 7 from the field in just 16 minutes. 13 points, 16 minutes. Has a great ring to it. And he's really aggressive getting to his spots. And obviously our bench scoring last season was one of our major weaknesses. And Clarkson taking that leap, right? Since this man, Mike Brown, made the switch up to shorten that rotation, right? Hart has benefited, Clarkson's benefited well and truly, but he's kind of playing unselfish too. The ball is moving, and those worries about, Clarkson, holding the offense up and, being too much of a ball stopper and all of that, I ain't seeing that. So that's a credit, I think, so far to Clarkson. The offense still looks like it's moving well. Now, is he taking a couple of heat checks occasionally? But is it as bad as Campaign's heat checks? No, I wouldn't say. I think it's definitely, he's playing more within the offense. And as we look at his other stats too, I like when, Clarkson can pick up some assists. He got 2 assists tonight. So exactly what I was talking about, ladies and gentlemen. I think he's definitely bringing some intensity too, some good vibes in that locker room with Hart. And we're going to need that as the season progresses, that fire starter against guys like Detroit, Miami, and that. I do think that could be the difference between winning and losing against some of these big-time clubs, fam. When Clarkson plays well, he is really a difference maker for us because we kind of know the starters are what they are. And we have an amazing starting 5. But the separation could be those bench minutes, especially when it comes down the crunch, right? Johnny Chiba says Clarkson played so well, he could have gotten more minutes. 100%. Chris Gotti says Clarkson playmaking too. Michael says we're heating up with our bench scoring. Yet you love to see the comfortability. And as you guys said before, man, you're on point about Mike Brown's offense suiting JC. He's just that street ball kind of guy, the fever. Plays on feel, plays on vibes. And he's definitely a guy, though, can see the floor better than Campaign, right? And I'm not throwing shots at Campaign because that's in the past. I thought Cam Payne was a solid vet minimum player for the New York Knicks. He had limitations, and everyone knows those limitations, but Cam Payne was good value for us last season, right? We needed more in the playoffs, especially. And it looks like Clarkson is delivering in these last 5 games, right? With that steadiness, the scoring, and also defensively. I think he's better than Cam Payne as well. Obviously, he's got a little bit more size in his skill set. Miles McBride, last but not least, 3 of 6, +2, 9 points. 3 of 6 from downtown is what I'm really keying in on when it comes to Miles McBride, man. He is so comfortable at Madison Square Garden when it comes to the 3 ball, man. It should be on every team scouting report right now when it comes to Deuce, right? You can't leave him open and he'll make you pay. So, going to pull up the grade for Deuce McBride. And, the 3-point ball was the highlight. Deuce McBride solid in this one tonight, man. Definitely selfless, but mostly solid. And the 3-point ball, 50% from downtown, right, is what we can expect. So these are the grades for tonight, fam. If I'm grading Mike Brown as we switch over to the coaches chat now, I'm definitely giving Mike Brown a standout, right? Because after a shaky start, 5 in a row now, that's definitely quietened down. You might not be jumping out the window, but it's definitely quietened down any of the negative talk at the moment, or the loud, discourse after those 3 losses in a row early in the season. We wanted to see progress, right? After firing Thibodeau, and we had that 3-game losing streak, people were second guessing, right? And we needed to see this team refocus, flip that switch. Mike Brown shortened that rotation. He hadn't really made no genius moves or anything like that. He just made a couple of corrections, and we're on our way right now with a 5-game winning streak. And not only are we just winning and scraping by, we're absolutely pounding these teams into submission, and we're eating our food right now. The Brooklyn Nets, Grizzlies, Wizards, getting revenge on the Bulls. And obviously, I think a real clutch win over the Minnesota Timberwolves, which was that second half, ladies and gentlemen. Michael Drake wants to shout out Mike Brown and give him an A-type coaching status grade. Definitely. I would give him, if I'm grading a letter grade, I would give Mike Brown probably a B+. But if we win the next couple, it's going up to an A, fam. Michael says Clarkson better than Payne. Chris says, did Bridges finally get the hard hat and Tibbs this game? I think Bridges has got one before, fam. I think one of the early games, but great question. I'm going to pull it up and see if Mikal Bridges actually did get the hard hat. Right, it's become a following right now. We want to see who got the hard hat, work vest, and the Tims. As I'm just loading up X. Get your shouts in for Coach Brown. Right, it's definitely been night and day is what Michael Drake said, earlier. Yes, Mikal Bridges, ladies and gentlemen, getting that love. I'm going to pull it up right now on the big screen. Here we go. Midi Mikal Bridges. I love the teammates, the vibes really locking in as well. In these images, we have a bucket now, probably an ice bucket, but Mikal Bridges came to work tonight with the 4 steals, fam. And I gave Mikal Bridges the standout. Yep. The 2 standouts. And JB Macau Bridges, man, been our most consistent player, maybe right up against Brunson and Cat and OG close behind. Mitch is definitely on his way, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, you love to see it. Macau Bridges thriving. And look, we gave away all those draft picks. It'll follow Macau Bridges everywhere, man, all the way to the end. Hopefully we end up with that championship ring. Multiple, possibly. But he's definitely locked in this season and doesn't want to hear anything about those picks, man. He wants to hear about winning, as do we, ladies and gentlemen. So, yeah, you love to see that with the Bridge Brigade, right? 22.7 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 steals. Right. Absolute dynamite, man. Could have really given him a game ball as well. You know. But I do think Brunson definitely answered the call during some dicey moments, right? Let's check in on the poll. Right, as we look ahead to tomorrow, Knicks on track for the 1 seed at 37%, not getting carried away yet at 30%. Just got to stay healthy at 22%, and we're ahead of schedule, in my opinion, at 11%. So that is the vibes of the Knicks family, Knicks streets, after this 5-game winning streak. Now we move to a very respectable 7-3. Right, let's take a look around the league right now as I pull up today's results, ladies and gentlemen. We see the Brooklyn Nets play a closer game against the Raptors. They went down 119-109. The Thunder are punished Draymond Green and the Warriors. I see Draymond Green been talking a lot of smack about the New York Knicks recently, right? It's definitely got me fired up because I can't wait to shut him up when the New York Knicks can play the Golden State Warriors, fam. He's talking about, and he's another guy that's starting to jump on the Detroit Pistons hype train, fam. As I'm going to hit on that next. But the Sixers got a really close win over the Celtics. The Jazz beat the Pacers, or about to beat the Pacers, fam. We have the Kings and Nuggets, fam, coming up. Starting up real quick. Now, let me refresh these standings, right? As we see, the New York Knicks move to 7-3, right? Holding firm for that 2nd seed. But we are coming. We are coming for that top seed, ladies and gentlemen, right behind the Pistons at 9-2, right? Now, over to the Pistons. I want to talk about them because there's been a lot of talk and a lot of Pistons, influencers and artists and Detroit media fans really starting to perk up, right? And yeah, enjoy this start. They should be enjoying their team. Detroit basketball has been down for a minute, a long, long minute. But when it comes to respect, right? Respect your opponents, right? The disrespect from Brunson, the Cade situation, putting Cade ahead of Brunson, in a lot of this talk, just, pump the brakes. Hold up, pump those brakes, right? Cade Cunningham is definitely a superstar and a guy that's coming up, a star right now, yet to be proven as a superstar in the crunch, hasn't won a playoff series yet, right? You can't take away a player's accomplishments, right? You could debate skill versus skill, game versus game. All of those things are subjective, ladies and gentlemen, but you can't take away a player's accomplishments. Jalen Brunson has accomplished so much more in his career than Cade Cunningham, who is yet, I repeat, yet to win a playoff series, right? Jalen Brunson's won many a playoff series. He's sent many a guys packing home. And he's also, among the elites of Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and LeBron James, doing things that only those guys have done in the NBA playoffs. And that is how players should be judged. ladies and gentlemen. Not these meaningless regular season wins and, Cade looking flashy and, carrying his team and all of that. Now, if you want to talk about MVP conversation, if he continues to lead his team to a 1 or 2 seed, cool. Cade could be in the MVP conversation as the season progresses if he's really carrying that team, to the top 2 seeds. But as for who's better, as for, we've got to put him ahead of other guys in the East as the top player in the East and all of that, man, I ain't having that. Because he has to achieve things first that Brunson has achieved, ladies and gentlemen, and he ain't there yet, right? That's the reality check, right? That's the reality check. He just ain't there yet. And is he going to get there? I mean, who knows? We'll wait and see. But, so far, I'm really looking forward to that next matchup, ladies and gentlemen, against the Pistons. So let's take a look at the road ahead right now, and then we'll do in the spotlight. Glenn says, CT, I know it's early, but is there anyone we can sign in January for a scoring punch, or are we capped out? Great question, Glenn. I do think the Knicks can add another guy. Might possibly be late in the season, around April, where they can add a 15th guy. January, not so much. January is only going to be if they can pull off a trade. They might have to swap a player out to get a guy in. They can certainly do that. But in terms of just signing a guy, we're going to have to wait till April, fam. I think it's the final 2 weeks of the season to make it work financially. But as I said, however, the Knicks could still make a trade earlier if they feel like they need extra scoring punch. I understand what you're saying as well, because I feel like we could definitely do with some extra scoring, but I do like what I'm seeing from Mohamed Diawara. Hit a couple of big threes late in the blowout against Brooklyn. As I pull up these highlights right now, Pacome Dardier too. This is great for development. If they're not getting minutes with the big club, it's really important that they are getting these minutes in Westchester. Now, I love Diawara's jump shot. I really do think the coaching staff and him have been working on that, because it definitely looks a lot more fluid than what I've seen in the tape over in Europe and in the preseason. Right, you see Pacome Dardier. Look, Diawara in transition, great playmaking abilities as well. Finding his teammate with that one. Johnny Chiba says Mike Brown's number one job is getting these players to reach their ceilings, and we're seeing it now. Yep, we are. We're seeing it in full effect with this 5-game winning streak. Jose G says JB sent Detroit packing home last year. Yeah, we just got to keep doing it. He's got to keep proving the doubters wrong, or the haters, right? The thing is, it eats people away inside that they think that, they could be better than the Knicks still with Jalen Brunson here. You see Boston struggling. You see Indiana now struggling with injuries. You see Brunson dominating the East. And even Detroit fans can't come to grips with the fact that the Knicks are just elite right now. And, we've got to see what Cleveland do, as Cleveland are in 4th. So, Cleveland at 7-4, the Bucks 7-4 as well. Philly with the big win today, I think they go to 8-4, or they stay at 7-4. So, it is a little bit of a logjam early in the East, but don't worry, man. The boys and the men will get separated real soon. The pretenders versus the contenders are going to definitely get separation in the next, I think, 2-3 weeks. I do think you got to get to the probably 15 to 20 game point in the season. Yeah, I agree with Johnny Chiba. I'd rather see Diawara than Yabu. I think as the season goes, that could be another Mike Brown, positive development, Get more out of Diawara. you know, get more out of, you know, these end of the bench guys. Kolek even, you know, had some ups and downs so far, but he's getting more of a chance. McCullough is another guy that I'm a big fan of. I don't know how he went in the G League the other night, but we might just have to do some updates as the season goes along on how these guys are going down in the Westchester. But the pace and space, the three-point ball, the movement has been excellent. And yeah, I just wanted to touch on Mitch in the spotlight because was it 17 offensive rebounds the other night? Breaking records. I mean, he's definitely a guy who is the solution to these defensive lapses during games. If our offense can continue to click the way that it is, but with his rebounding defense, if he can stay healthy and play more minutes with this load management aspect that the Knicks haven't quite, you know, done in the past, I think that's going to be absolutely huge, ladies and gentlemen. And I cannot wait, right, to see how it plays out, you know, tomorrow, fam. You know, so we are going to, you know, talk about that. Definitely post-game tomorrow, right? As we break it down, and we'll talk about how the New York Knicks get on tomorrow versus the Orlando Magic. The homestand will continue. I'm really looking forward, you know, to seeing these guys ball out against a tougher defensive opponent. Karl-Anthony Towns and co, man. The offense is as pretty as I've seen as a Knicks fan. And are we going to get to 6, 7, 8 games? Let's see. I think tomorrow's a clear hurdle. We can get over that second night of that back-to-back. And then I think we'll really lock in for that Miami game. And then Miami back on the road again. So, you know, please try to win these next 3 and win the season series against the Heat. That'd be a great psychological boost, you know, early in the season to beat Miami these next 2 and try to win that season series, because they took the first game, you know, and we do have to get them back, right? So we get ready to wrap this one up. It's been a fun stream, and obviously the poll in tonight's chat, the winner is Knicks on track for that number 1 seed. 37%, 29% say not getting carried away yet, 24% say just got to stay healthy, and last but not least, 10% say we are ahead of schedule, right? So that's been great. Wish everyone a great night, and we'll be back at it tomorrow, fam. So salute, and we'll see you soon. Peace.